Welcome to another edition of Dan Frequently Asked Questions. In this edition, we're going to address a question of a diver about crackling in the ear. Keep watching. We got a question from a diver saying that they suffered from crackling in the ear in response to diving, and they had used Waxol, which is a solution that dissolves or makes wax easier to remove, under the premise that if the wax is removed, there will be no waterlogging of the external ear canal, and therefore the crackling is presumed to have been external ear, and yet even with using Waxol, it did not clear. Well, that leads me to believe that it is likely water, fluid, and bubbling in the middle ear that is actually causing the crackling. And of course, that would only be possible to determine under otoscopic evaluation, maybe with what we call a tympanogram, which is a way in which we can look at the compliance of the eardrum with pressure to see whether there's a problem related to the middle ear. My interpretation from what you describe is that it is most likely related to a middle ear issue and essentially mild forms of middle ear barotrauma. So my focus would probably lie in making sure that you can pneumatically or equalize the middle ear sufficiently during diving. And there are a number of variables there. One being whether the one ear is more compliant than the other. That's quite a common occurrence and may lead to this condition in the one ear relative to the other. Or there may be eustachian tube dysfunction for a variety of reasons on the one side relative to the other. And that may range from anything from a skew septum of the nose to maybe some scarring of that particular eustachian tube. Either way, it probably would justify an assessment by an ENT surgeon, and they can actually test the opening pressures of the eustachian tube and would be able to do the other examinations related to the middle ear, which is really why I think the problem is. In the interim, two things you might consider would be to look at a so-called OVent, and there's another video that we have on equalizing techniques that discusses this balloon that you essentially inflate with your mouth, keep in the nostril, and then as it deflates, you swallow, and that opens the eustachian tubes. And in that process, it sometimes makes the eustachian tubes easier to open and can resolve certain middle ear conditions. The other is to use one other form of nasal rinsing, which is essentially saline that is squirted in the one nostril and it runs out the other nostril, thereby cleaning mucus away from the openings of the eustachian tube. The combination of those two is often very effective at restoring normal eustachian tube function. And that's always a good thing, whether or not it's easy for you to equalize or not. So I hope that's given you something to go on. Again, we think that you should be assessed by an ENT. We think that it's possibly a middle ear problem. In some cases, it may be as a result of spasm of one of the muscles in the ear called the tensor tympani that is in relation to the eustachian tube. And the two measures that you can try in the meantime are an OVent, the little balloon that you inflate with your mouth and swallow with, and then sinus rinsing. Hope that helps, and for the rest of you, please feel free to ask questions about ear issues and diving, because they are, after all, the most common concern to divers. Until next time, safe dive.